We've been talking about this on smoke shops operating illegally, especially following the rash of violent robberies in recent weeks.
However, cannabis is legal in New York, and there's a thin line between enforcement and equity. So here to talk more about this is Trevette Knowles with the New York State Office of Cannabis Management. So good morning, Trevette. Thanks so much for being with us.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Hazel. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so the concern across New York City right now is the illegal sale of cannabis products. But you say it's also important not to criminalize cannabis consumers while enforcing this law. So what do you mean by that exactly?
Well, something that's really unique to the New York State Office of Cannabis Management is actually recognizing the harms of the war on drugs. When we legalized cannabis here in the state of New York, we actually wanted to make sure that this new legal industry was built upon equity. When you look at other states, they really wanted to just, let it open to all, almost like a free-for-all. And you saw a lot of large corporations come in and seize that opportunity. So what we did is making sure that these small and medium operators have an opportunity to actually launch the legal market. But in that transitionary period, we're seeing some people try to jump the gun or take advantage of some public confusion and make a quick buck. And that's what we're kind of seeing, because we don't want to recriminalize the individual. We want to make sure that New Yorkers know we are not here to put bodies back in jail. We are here to seize unsafe product. That is the number one concern for us, is public safety, public health, and making sure that New Yorkers who want to consume have a safe, tested methods to do so.
Yeah, so Trevette, is that what you're seeing play out? Because during yesterday's city council hearing about the smoke shops illegally selling cannabis, the New York sheriff referred to what they called the legacy market, right? So what exactly is that for those who may not know?
Well, we consider the legacy market people who operated and sold or worked inside the illicit operations before cannabis was legalized, right? So we're recognizing the people who have experience, people who worked and actually functioned in a market, and that could be entrepreneurial skills. That could be so many other things. We're taking a very innovative approach to those who operated in the legacy market, right? And we want to recognize those as people coming from communities disproportionately impacted again with those war on drugs. However, very important to note is that the people we're seeing right now currently open up these illicit shops, the ones that you're seeing on your local corner, are not actually members of the community, because specifically to our Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, we call that the MRTA here in New York State. When we have the legal dispensaries pop up, they're not only going to be entrepreneurs, community stakeholders, but the money from that tax revenue is going to go directly back into the communities in which they actually spent the money. The people trying to bypass that system right now are not paying their taxes. They're not paying their dues. They're not ensuring that their product is safe, tested, or necessarily checking IDs. If you go into a dispensary and you see any products, advertised towards children, or it makes it seem like it's one of your favorite chocolate or cereal candies, that is not a legal New York State dispensary. That is something we take very seriously.
But let's talk about enforcement then, because City Councilwoman Gail Brewer was just on our air talking about enforcement, saying that they went to some of these shops that were illegally selling cannabis, fined them, gave them fines. The next day they're open again. So what do you think needs to be done to make sure that they are going to be illegal shops and that everybody follows the law?
Well, first off, the thing we're doing at OCM is an education-first approach, right? We have to think about cannabis was just legalized, and we're fighting in a 100-year prohibition, right? We understand that there's also going to be a stigma. People are not necessarily, comfortable, or some people aren't even aware of cannabis, and we're going to live in reality, because the matter of fact is cannabis is legalized. So we, as OCM, as the New York State, have an opportunity and an obligation to make sure that we educate as many people as we can and usher them into this legal market. In regards to some of these illicit shops operating, OCM has actually been working really diligently with our enforcement team. We have one here at OCM, and also making sure that we educate our law enforcement partners across the state and working in tandem, and making sure our joint forces work as smoothly as possible. Last year, we've already seized over millions of dollars of product, right? We've gotten so many pounds of untested cannabis products. Just because you maybe you're not seeing on your block, I promise you, we are working as hard and diligently, and as this year continues, you'll definitely see more enforcement joint efforts across the state.
Good segue there, because you're talking about timelines, right? So when will, I guess, if we're talking about the illicit shops, we want to see more of the legal shops on the street. So when is the next round of those licenses for legal cannabis going to hit the market?
Well, I'm really excited because next week we have a cannabis control board meeting where more licenses will be brought before the board for them to approve. We already have approved 36 different retail dispensary licenses. I was really excited for the great work Housing Works, our first nonprofit, our first legal sanctioned cannabis dispensary. Please check them out. And I know some more coming up soon. So I understand the excitement, but I'm very excited to know that, let people know that there are more on the way. In addition to that, we want to thank, Governor Hochul. She provided a verification tool. So if you're ever maybe confused about what is a legal dispensary versus what's something that might be, masquerading as such, there's actually going to be a QR code that's going to be state sanctioned that you can scan it, very simple, and make sure that you know what type of product you're purchasing.
All right, Trevette Knowles, thanks so much, Office of Cannabis Management. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you both. You have a good day.